Magic and the Gathering.
It's called Magic.
The Magic cards. How do you? They're just called. What
To
are
the
they
game
called?
Magic. They're called Magic. The Gathering.
What?
It's called The Gathering. Magic. The Gathering.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
What's up, everybody? All right. It's one fucking hour time. I love that audience. Thank you. Thank you. All right. We're back. I'm Evan Husney, of course. And who do we got tonight? To my left, we got, of course, returning Mrs. Rémy Bennett. Rémy, welcome back.
Hello. Hello. Good evening.
Yes, yes. And, of course, to my right, always, screen right, of course, Mr. Marcus Herring. What's going on, Marcus?
I screen right.
Swipe right for Marcus?
Swipe right. Yeah, that's
I think
right.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So tonight, here we are, episode 145 of the show. We're going to be getting into our first doc in a while. Of course, coming off of the one horror film we covered for One Fucking Tober, sort of transitioning here out of Halloween and into something new. And if you haven't been paying attention, of course, we took a 3-month hiatus. Definitely check out last week's episode. We did 1 fucking hour on The Exorcist. Caught everybody up in what's been going on. Of course, we mentioned Big T, Tom Fitzgerald, shout out, dealing with a very serious medical issue right now. He's taking a medical leave from the show, and so Rémy is filling in for the time being. And gotta say, guys, blown away by everyone's comments on last week's episode. I read every single one. They made me verklempt, brought a tear to my eye. Thank you guys so much for being so understanding, supportive, and just compassionate and amazing.
Yeah.
We have such an incredible audience. Seriously. Like, I
It was
can't
very
believe
cool.
it. Very
cool to read that. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. And just such like really kind.
Kind. Like the internet's not kind, and you guys are somehow kind.
It means a lot.
It really does. It really does. It's such it's amazing because, you know, and I sent the comments, the link to Tom's family as well. They saw the comments, and, you know, I'm sure they're going to get to Tom as well. And that's just amazing. So thank you guys again so much for that. We read every single comment. They all mean something. They all support, you know, it all goes to supporting and us and everyone. It's amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
But we're going to carry on here. As I said, episode 145, doing a doc, first doc in a very long time. And that tonight is going to be 1 fucking hour on Hell House from 2001. It's a very deep cut doc, right from that sort of, we're going to get more into this into the hour, kind of golden age of late 90s, early 2000s, follow verite docs. And this was sort of chronicling these Christian scare haunted houses that were happening in the South, or actually all over the country. We'll get into it. But very interesting subject matter, very compelling characters, eccentric characters, verite filmmaking, sort of fly in the wall, sort of objective filmmaking, very interesting stuff. I saw this movie over 20 years ago, and it stuck with me. And I've always wanted to cover it for the show, and it was on the short list for us to cover around this time anyway. So excited that we're finally getting to it. All right, guys, before we get into the show, of course, I want to gotta give a shout out to the 1 fucking hour Patreon. Patreon.com/1 fucking hour is where you can sign up to become a Momin of our channel. Join the Momin Club. And it is the best way to support not only the show, because now this is going 100% to support Tom Fitzgerald, of course, in his recovery process and all the expenses that are going with that. But if you join, it's $5 a month, or if you want to donate more, you're welcome to. There's options to do that. You're going to get 24-hour early access to all of the episodes we put up online. You're going to get a whole library of bonus episodes that we've done over the past few years. And, of course, we're going to continue to do new bonus material. So that'll be up there. It's the only way you can get it is up on the Patreon. Or if you want to keep all your bonus content on YouTube, find the join button underneath this video. Click that, and you can become a Momin of the YouTube channel. Same perks, same benefits, same price. We appreciate the support nonetheless. So good to hear the OFH Patreon theme right now. Very nostalgic for this. Yeah, we appreciate the support. So many of you guys re-signed up when we came back from the hiatus. Thank you again for that.
Thank you.
Support means so much. Many of you pledged much more than I thought anyone ever would. So thank you again for that support. So Tom appreciates it, his family, so on and so forth. So thanks for that. It means a lot.
Thank you.
All right, guys, are you ready to get into the episode? Should we?
So ready.
Should we?
Start the clock.
Let's try it.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's see. I'm going to get the clock going here. All right, everybody, locked and loaded. Here we go.
All right.
Oh, fuck. Still getting used to these buttons. All right, here we go. Everybody, locked and loaded. Here we go. All right, let's read a synopsis for the good people here, because chances are you might not have seen this film. And
This from the Criterion Blu-ray.
oh, I wish there was a Criterion
Yeah,
Blu-ray of this.
for real.
There could be someday. Once they get to the
Should
bottom
be.
of the barrel, they'll get there. But this film is available to watch on Amazon right now, which I'm thankful, because when we announced it last week, I was like, oh shit, this might not be available, but it is. You can see it there. All right. Hell House from 2001 is a documentary directed by George Ratliff about an annual evangelical haunted house event in Cedar Hill, Texas, where members of the Trinity Church, which is of the Assembly of God parish, dramatize scenes of moral and spiritual crisis, such as abortion, suicide, family violence, quote unquote, school shootings, drug use, and homosexuality as paths to damnation. Shot in remarkably objective and observational style, the film allows the subjects to speak for themselves without overt commentary or judgment. It follows the congregation as they plan, rehearse, and perform their elaborate production, revealing both the deep conviction and unsettling contradictions behind their mission. Both humorous and oddly moving in some sections, Hell House captures in a uniquely American collision of faith, fear, and performance at the turn of the new millennium. So there we go, Hell House. Yeah, and that's, this is exactly what you're getting with this movie. I mean, this is very like amateur. Think sort of Waiting for Guffman sort of style, amateur community theater. Meets kind of, I would say the more verite style of like an American movie type of documentary. And
Wiseman-esque, like no talking head experts,
Yep.
like no filmmaker who's like inserted himself like with his personal journey.
right.
There's no animated like sequences that
Oh,
will
yeah,
just
yeah.
swoop in to explain the backstory.
Yeah, this is pure verite, which is so cool. It's really cool to see, and it's very well made in terms of you can sort of get lost in the filmmaking, and it feels very cinematic, and it feels like a movie. And there's even great coverage, which I really appreciate. And I know we've talked about that in the past with films like Streetwise. Shout out to that episode in the archives, where it's like the filmmakers were really considerate about getting a lot of coverage of each of the subjects to make it really feel cinematic and to feel, like a real, treating this like a movie, not just a doc.
And it's a real like slice of life. We were kind of talking about 17 too, that documentary.
17. It's a great film, yeah.
Which is awesome, but where you're kind of just like, you're getting kind of dropped into the lives of these people. And
Exactly.
It's always amazing to me that the filmmakers, the access they get, and then putting people at ease, and like something like this where it's shot on 16 millimeter cameras that I'm sure were good, like the SR2, or whatever, that are pretty quiet, but still it's noisy, and they're changing film whatever, and they're in the room with the people. It's amazing that they can get a naturalistic performance, that the people can forget about them. They kind of disappear into the background.
Yeah.
I was, at the theater a long time ago, we did like a Wiseman film festival,
Cool.
and he came to town, and
Oh, cool.
and I got to have dinner with him, which was, one of the most amazing things. And I was asking him about how he was able to do that, to kind of become that fly on the wall.
Yeah.
And I really wish I could remember what he said, because I think I can't remember. But it blew my mind.
Oh, cool. At the time.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So what you're getting with this is, of course, evangelical Christian church who's putting on a shock you, sort of scare you into Christianity, sort of haunted house during Halloween, where you're seeing these genuinely shocking, genuinely controversial scenes, very amateurly like portrayed, as if like think student film level acting.
What are you oh my goshing about over there, girl?
Nothing, Dad. I'm just checking my emails.
Checking your email.
Really, sort of, and we're going to get into that, of course, but these set pieces are really shocking and very offensive. Like I said in the description, a kid who didn't pray hard enough to not be homosexual is now going to be dragged to hell.
This is Steve. He thought his homosexual lifestyle was everything a real man could want. But now he's dying of AIDS. Steve.
A woman who decided to get an abortion, someone who got raped at a rave, a woman, and she kills herself and goes to hell. It's really grim and really upsetting, but somehow this film also humanizes somewhat the people that are in it, and there's even some sort of empathetic characters, one might say, but it does wrestle with the idea of like, holy shit, like these are interesting people that I'm invested in following, but they're partaking in something really fucking insane and also really problematic. But go on, Rémy, what were you going to say?
Well, it's interesting because it's like one of those kind of films where it's introducing an audience to something that's a subculture that is actually quite popular in the rest of the country, right?
It is.
So it's like, for instance, for like this Bermuda, Toronto, this was maybe seen by some kind of like, art house, New York kind of audiences who really had no fucking clue that this shit was going on.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But the reality is like, this was very successful and very like wide ranging in terms of these hell houses that were put on as evangelical, almost like conversion tools in like churches, in communities. But to give you I just did a little bit of research background on
you read the book. You read the book.
There
right?
is, I'm gonna drop this in the comments, but there's a book called Religion of Fear. That's very cool. And it charts like how evangelical traditions have like used fear and the horror genre to really like terrify, scare people straight, and like perpetuate the propaganda of kind of the ideologies that they're pushing. So the person responsible, I will not be too long-winded, but the person responsible for these hell houses was Jerry Falwell,
of course,
who was one of the most probably like famous evangelical pastors and a televangelist. So he was really one of these people who, the moral majority, the new Christian right, in the 1970s, he was strategizing, like, how do we kind of bring evangelicals back into the fold in politics, in culture, and kind of fight the liberal agenda that's kind of pushing progressivism. We talked a bit about this in the Exorcist episode.
It is related, yeah.
So the first one that he ever started was a judgment house that they call it, called Scaremare. And it was in 1972. Whoa. And it was, and so this was like part of this church it was called the Liberty University Church. And it was like, the evangelical answer to Halloween. Wow. So Scaremare really put this idea on the map, right? Wow. And then in 1983, there was another judgment house that popped up, and then this pastor named Keenan Roberts, he's the one who's really responsible for like the first official hell house, which actually started in Roswell, New Mexico.
Oh shit!
Which is kind of fucking crazy in 1992. And then what this guy started doing is he created these hell house outreach kits where they had like production manuals,
like franchising it, right?
DVDs.
Like franchising.
Yeah, and explaining this is how you build the sets. These are the scripts, and he like copyrighted a script, and then he would send them out all around the country, and different churches all around the country would buy these kits, and then it really took off, and it became this huge phenomenon.
It is sort of like the foundational to like Christianity, like in the spreading of it. Like in the medieval Christian times, there were these like mystery plays that would tour around in like wagons and stuff.
Wow.
And
morality plays,
right. They would set up in towns and like convert people. So it is like something that's like just deeply embedded in like the culture.
It's really similar to that. Wow. It's like this long history. But
they were also obviously seeing these were massively successful because it's a tool to bring in even the pastor, Tim Ferguson in this film, the guy who's the pastor of the church. He's sort of masterminding this whole thing in the film. He even alludes to it that, you know, people are more likely to come to this haunted house event during Halloween.
The object of Hell House is to do dramas and with sound and smell and sight in a unique way that our culture can receive the gospel of Jesus Christ that maybe they normally might not come. They'll come to see Hell House when they would never walk inside the doors of a church.
Much more, who aren't part of the church, much more than they would ever step foot in a church, you know, and become part of the deal there. So, you know, that's the idea.
A lot of people are probably just confused and think it is just like a regular haunted house.
Yeah. And there's probably
like a novelty of it too.
Yeah.
I think like a lot of people would come out for this stuff, and even like, you know, kind of like you know, metal kids or people. Right. Yeah, totally.
Well, in a way, it's like, you know, for people that are like deeply religious, it is a way for them to go see like something scandalous or see like R-rated material.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
In a way that because it has like a pious message to it, you know, at the end they're allowed to go watch like these brutal scenes and kind of live vicariously through them. You know?
And that's a huge part of this movie.
100%.
That I definitely want to touch upon because it's so evident in every scene. Everyone is so gleeful in this film.
I know.
To portray some of these harrowing scenes, like for example, you know, it's like everyone's crowding around the roll call to see if they've gotten the role of the rape girl. Everyone's celebrating. Oh, you got the rape girl.
Like, I got the suicide girl.
Yeah,
you know, it's like suicide girl and rape girl were like, that was
that's like the it roles.
That was the shit. That's what
also the kids that are like, oh, the rave is the most fun because you get to dance.
You get to dance.
You know?
The rave scene's the best because you get to dance.
It's almost like Footloose.
Footloose.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing with the whole idea of like the concept behind it was like, how do we get the youth involved again in like Christianity? So like the tactic was like, you know, let's find topical things, let's get the kids out, and then let's energize them through this kind of like almost like this like escapist fun where you're actually just enjoying doing this, you know, building these sets, doing these wild plays.
It looks
but like
fun. Super fun to put on.
There's like
house.
this greater agenda that's you know, that's happening.
Well, the other touchstone for this is like something that we were talking about recently, Evan. Looking through those, I didn't know what they were called, but those chick tracts.
Yeah,
you know?
Jack Chick. Yeah.
Those little like religious pamphlets that would be like death by rock and roll or whatever.
Yeah, I love those.
A little comic that had a guy with like a guitar into his like piped into his vein, and the inside story would be about how the devil like. You know, lured him to rock and roll, and it ruined his life.
Like these cautionary tales.
Yeah, so each one of these scenes is like one of those chick tracts
100%
come to life.
It's completely like that. And the chick tracts too had that weird quality where like they're very poppy, like they're very like comic booky and zeitgeisty. So like when you first look at a chick tract, you're very confused by the tone because it's, you know, it's like an unexpected tone, and this is the same kind of thing. Like.
Yeah, well, let's also just paint a quick picture. I think one of the reasons that I like this movie, not only because it's, you know, it's funny and it's well made and it's just an interesting, I would say, deep cut gem of that sort of, you know, just that golden age of, you know, verite docs. I mean, that we were spoiled with in the 90s. I mean, you know, you had, you know, Hands on a Hard Body. You had, you know, you had Trekkies. You know, of course, American Movie. You know, which we've covered in the past. You know, all these great movies coming out through the festival circuit, following those very eccentric, you know, characters, and they were always so quirky, funny, and just awesome, right?
Late 90s, early 2000s, such a great time for docs.
Great times,
you know,
so good. Yeah,
everything from Crumb to in the 90s, you know, and then you've got like Grizzly Man later, you know, in the 2000s or whatever, Capturing the Freedmans. And then the docs were on TV a lot too, like all these series that were docs, like HBO, Real Sex, like that is a doc, you know, or what was the other one we were talking about recently with like the drug stories? Or
there's that whole series of America Undercover. We were going to cover one of those for our crime series. Maybe we'll go back to it.
Even like Cops is like a documentary.
You
know,
this
like
is
verite.
This is that time period, you know. So what I wanted to just say real quick is, you know, so this is sitting right in that. But that's one reason I like it. But the other reason that I really like it is because it's such a time capsule of the late 90s, not only just in terms of, the fashion. I mean, these are the archetypes of the people I went to high school with. Like, they are exactly. I went to high school with that raver guy, Thaddeus. Shout out. We'll talk about him later. I went to high school with that guy. For example.
Yeah.
And the spikes made from
yes, the spiky gel hair. That's my very first note I took was gel hair.
Marcus, someday when I work up the courage, I will share my spiky hair gel photos.
Yeah, like egg white
of myself,
like crusted.
Yes, my mom thought it was a good idea for me.
You got to show those photos; they're incredible. Wait, can we got to talk about Columbine real quick?
I'm getting to it. It's my next note.
Okay. Sorry.
Where are we at? All right, don't bring it down. We're still having fun in the 90s. Yeah, don't be the downer yet.
I know. So it's one part that it's the doc stuff. It's the again, it's the time capsule, but it's also a snapshot of such a particular time that I was just completely online for. Our generation was.
Yeah.
This is post Columbine. This film is shot in the year 2000. It's right off the heels of Columbine. And of course, there's a direct connection to Columbine because in the film, the pastor, Tim Ferguson, he caught this whole sort of wave of controversy from the year prior doing a Hell House. It had a sequence that was based on the Columbine shootings.
A reenactment.
It was a reenactment. They had a whole scene of it. And that's what sparked this controversy. That's what got George Ratcliffe, the director of this film, interested in potentially covering it as a movie.
Because people were doing articles about this. Like that kind of put it on the map. Like I think the New York Times did a piece. It was like, what the fuck is going on?
Exactly.
Too soon.
This is insane. Too soon.
It was months after. It was literally months after. I mean, it was, obviously April 20th was Columbine, and then Halloween, just a handful of months later, they're reenacting it,
And it was revisionist too. Like they were putting these crazy things, obviously.
Yeah,
but like,
spin on it. Yeah,
and then George did like a short on that time period, right? Which I think is interesting that he didn't just do that short and say, okay, I'm good, I'm done with that subject. He did that. Then he went back and made the feature film, which I just love that idea that people revise and keep going back to it and molding it and making,
well, that's how he also builds on trust, right? Like, he saw all of these crazy articles that were coming out at the time about this church doing Columbine reenactments, and he reached out to them saying, hey, this would be interesting doc subject, but let's tell your side of the story, meaning to the church. And that's how this started, and then it grew into the movie we know now. But so you have go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, just to that point, it is amazing that he was able to get that access. And so when I was looking into it, he said one of the ways that he got them to trust them was to say, look, I'll watch the film with you and you can lynch me afterwards if you want to.
Well, I think,
Well, and then he said there were 2 screenings of the film, one in New York, and it got really big laughs, and then there was a second screening in Dallas, and they had all these screens set up to watch it. And then that actually got bigger laughs from the community there, but from different parts. They were laughing at different stuff from the New York audience.
That's
and he says to them, they're just being themselves, and they're like they enjoyed seeing themselves on screen. They didn't notice the critique.
Yeah,
which is very storytelling. Todd Solondz.
Shout out, we've done that movie in the archives too. But that's what I've always said is that what I've appreciated about this movie is I feel like. We've talked about like the sort of cackling hipsters of Williamsburg, watching American movie. You can be that person, watch it, laugh at the people on screen. But if you're those people, you could watch it and this would be totally fine. This is an accurate, capturing of what we do, for the most part. Obviously, there's some tongue-in-cheek stuff that's kind of semi-hidden in there. They might not catch, but we'll get to that in a second. Because I want to elaborate on just this time period. So post-Columbine, this is what's going on, right? There's kind of a new era of moral panic going on in the culture, of kind of off the heels of Columbine, this idea of, movies,
Trenchcoat Mafia,
movies and video games, Marilyn Manson, etc. Is causing all of this stuff, and I think churches were sort of seeing this as confirmation of everything that they were sort of saying, the world going to hell, and now we're gonna stage this sort of like. Here is America. It has spiritually like rotted, and we're going to restage that rot, literally as a haunted theater. That's what we're going to do here. And then also you have the doomsday element of it, which is alluded by the end of the film, which is a very harrowing finish this film has, by everyone talking about how, the end times are coming, but Y2K was something we just went through.
Right.
So there's that
fin de siècle, right?
Yes, there's that. Yep, there's that end times anxiety that's running through this time period as well too. And one other fascinating asset too is that the late 90s was the launching pad of reality TV, shock media, and that the sort of Jerry Springer, the sort of WWF Monday Night Raw.
The sensationalism.
Yes.
It reached a new height by that point, by like Y2K, like.
Right. And they're seeing that as an effective thing, and they're co-opting it for their own purposes here, which I think is very interesting.
And I think the 90s too in general, like I was just jotting down 90s things that popped into my head. Waco, Timothy McVeigh, Rodney King, O.J. Simpson trial, Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky.
Oh, yes.
MTV, Ellen DeGeneres coming out. Like, there was grunge, there was Nirvana, there was like, it was like.
What does Ellen have to do with it?
Yeah, Ellen.
Gay!
Yeah.
Okay.
Gay!
We're saying,
she's coming out. I thought you meant like she's coming out. They came out with Ellen DeGeneres. They came out. Okay.
That's the cold open. Right?
Because this whole thing about anti-homosexuality, anti-gayness, like that, obviously that stuff was brewing a little bit, obviously in the 80s, the 90s.
Yes.
This shit really went mainstream.
Oh, yeah.
And Christians were flipping the fuck out that there was like openly gay people on TV.
Well, that's sort of alluded
It started in the 80s like that, that was a Reagan pushback against the liberal,
totally.
It started 70s, but yeah,
this
it really
ramped up.
But that's also alluded to someone in the film too, where, which is great that you sort of see a lot of the kids in the community who are pitching ideas to the church leaders, and they're like, well, I'm seeing two women, around town dating each other, and I'm seeing this happen in my town, and then of course, you even have like a kid who pitches the idea, which they wind up doing, of staging a sort of, not a school shooting per se, where, a kid is shooting another kid. A kid is going to commit suicide shooting himself in the classroom, which is really demented. And that leads
Pearl Jam. They were all doing the Jeremy video.
Jeremy
His name's even Jeremy. Yeah.
I thought of that instantly.
This is very Jeremy core. This whole
Jeremy core.
Jeremy spoken.
Because that song came out like a decade earlier, or something. So
but that was on MTV like every day, man. That was like
constantly.
Yeah,
that was so weird. Yeah, to see like a kid shoot himself in a classroom on MTV every single day,
every fucking day,
all day long. What I know. With the lesbian, the kids pitching the lesbian scene, I thought it was really interesting that the church leaders were like, "No, we can't do that because."
Same reason we don't do a boyfriend girlfriend scene in Hell House, because you're just together so much over that period of time. I just don't want to go there.
We don't even do a boyfriend girlfriend scene because people spend that much time together.
Slippery slope.
They kind of know that the kids are into it to act these things out in a way.
Interesting.
Totally.
To like embody that shit, like you were saying, that forbidden stuff to be able to.
To act in the forbidden.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's why they're so ecstatic. Doing it. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But there was a review that I read about this movie too, just on the note of like pitching the sort of Jeremy core scene for this. But the idea of these people sort of having very extreme, violent ideas around morality is so crazy, to have. It's kind of like, I think the review was mentioning that this is like a totally different kind of violence, that like, you don't see really anywhere else. And I think that's what's very disturbing and unique about this film and haunted house attraction.
The abortion stuff too.
Oh, God.
You mean because it's so much more gory and violent than you would see like in a movie?
Yes.
You would never see a movie that was this base.
No.
And, like, depraved,
Yeah.
Hell House is based. Yeah. So, all right. Let's kind of get into this a little bit because, this is just so fascinating. So, obviously we have what we were talking about is the very Waiting for Guffman sort of shout out again. We did that episode too in the archives. Very Waiting for Guffman Core here, where the church, it's a church as a amateur theater company.
Yeah.
And it's just like a Christopher Guest. This film in so many different places plays like a Christopher Guest movie. That like maybe you could convince somebody that this is like a scripted film and they'd maybe believe it, because it has the comedy beats.
I think they must have had that, just because it does follow that form so much. They just had that in their head that this is how you make a movie about plays. You have the audition scene.
Gotta have it.
That. Like it's just baked into the form.
Totally. Gotta have it. So So on that note, you're watching. It's kind of early on in the film. This is the audition segments where all the girls are hoping they get to be the rape victim and hoping they get to be the abortion girl and all this stuff. And you see them acting. And of course, it's that very bad, what their perception of sort of, community theater or theater acting is. And Rémy, you were describing this as lots of, what was it again?
Lots of like bending over and like everyone's always like grabbing their stomach and bending over and like, oh my God, there's a lot of that kind of like strained vocal, whatever that
yelling.
Is. Yeah.
I should have gotten away from you the second that you started drinking. This is all your fault.
Yeah.
It's very funny because everyone is kind of bending down and bending a lot. It's very funny. We'll cut to a few bending moments. But yeah, so that was really funny. And yeah, again, it's so bizarre. Everyone's just excitement and gleefulness around all of, portraying all these scenes. But what I find to be very interesting about this movie is how even through the lens of bad amateur acting, performances, production design, cheap sets, cheap whatever, there is some sort of pathos within it. And the only instance of this I have, because again, most of these are extremely objectionable and horrifying and very offensive scenes. But of course, there's one scene that's taken from the life of one of our main characters that we sort of use that the film uses to follow him. We kind of see a lot of this through his eyes, of course. And I'm talking about John Cassar, who is sort of the emotional center, I would say, in some ways of this film, or at least the soul of this film.
Yeah,
he's the divorced dad. The dad of 5 children, and it's kind of an interesting sequence because you're introduced to him sort of cooking breakfast, getting everybody ready in the morning, and he's going around and getting all of his kids ready. And I'm kind of wondering. I remember first watching this, like, we're spending a lot of time with this guy. What's his relationship to everything?
Right.
And then of course you see this very harrowing sequence of one of his youngest child actively having a seizure in his high chair, and they takes him. Albert's having a seizure, and they bring him into the bedroom, and the camera follows, and is right there capturing the whole moment. I remember that kind of took my breath away.
It's a very empathetic portrayal. You're not sort of expecting to go there, and then seeing what this person is juggling and the responsibility, and you're really rooting for him.
Yeah. So it's this kind of day in a life of him where, we're sort of seeing that. Of course, it's tied together when he sort of says, I said the word of God, and he snapped out of the seizure. So he's obviously a believer.
Yeah.
And his eldest daughter, and again, I just appreciate this little filmmaking detail because it does remind me of Streetwise, in that Streetwise is got so much coverage that it really does feel so cinematic. And in this little sequence, it does too, where I think the dad is like shouting up to his daughter Alex, and he's like, your food's gonna get cold or whatever, and then it cuts to her brushing her hair in the bathroom upstairs,
blow drying,
just like a film would, So I appreciate that in the filmmaking. But then it kind of cuts to, okay, he's tangentially related to this hell house. His daughter wants to, land the part of, I think, which one is she? She's the abortion girl, I believe.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Right.
And then there's a great scene where he's just driving in his car and he's like, so do you think I do well in family violence?
Do you think I'd do okay in family violence? I really would like to try for that.
That's what he says. Which is so amazing.
That's the kind of dialogue that's just is incredible.
I know this movie, just in the casualness in which they speak about these unspeakable horrors that they're depicting in this setting is so funny. Like it's again like there's a scene like when the Hell House is fully operational and people are there. You know, people are radioing back and forth like, do you think you have a butcher knife that the occult scene can borrow? You know, to slit the throat of the mom or whatever. You know, like,
would you look around in the control room or that portable and see if there's a knife that the occult people can use to cut the bride's throat with?
Suicide ready, drug deal ready.
Yeah, drug
suicide
deal
girls ready.
Yeah, drug deal, the drug deal. Yeah, we'll get to that.
We're going to suicide. Suicide ready? We've started. Drug deal ready?
Get the rave going.
Yeah, get the yep. It's amazing. Yeah, I love it. So, but you know, so okay, he has interest in this family violence scene. Okay, and then as we're continuing to follow this character, the viewer then learns that his wife, you know, we're kind of wondering, like, he's a single father of 5. What's the story here? His wife is no longer in the picture. She left the family. She left the husband. And we learn that it was, again, very of the time, a chat room lover, room affair that was going on in the year 2000. And that's what we learn. And then we see the organic process as that very real life scene or moment in his life is transformed into the play production of Hell House, which is very Nathan Fielder-esque in a way, you know, because of course
he's watching it be performed.
It wasn't even clear that he was in on it. Like he looked like he was kind of learning about it.
I
like,
know
as it's happening. Cause he's like, "What's going? What are you?" I know.
The way his face is kind of like, "Wait, what? Well, hold up, what?" Yeah, it's really, very strange.
It really is one of the more insane moments in the film. Like the camera always finds him.
Oh yeah,
lands on him. You know,
his inner world is very apparent on his face, almost like
he looks like
Nathan
a
Fielder.
Actor.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it reminded me of The Curse, actually, where like the way that the camera would sort of slow zoom in on Nathan Fielder while something very embarrassing or revealing, and then you could kind of see everything, the shame, flickering, like it had that.
Yeah, you get this amazing moment where he then later on in the film sees these actors portraying, and it's obviously like this is like Neil Breen level, just inept acting, writing, whatever.
You're an idiot.
I'm an idiot.
And a tramp.
Yeah. Well, at least Jim acts like he knows how to treat a woman. That's more than I can say for you. You know what? I don't need this. I'm out of here.
But he's watching it, and you see it on his face that this is resonating in some.
Well, instead of his wife leaving him, the character in the play goes into a rage and murders the wife.
Yes, yes. Which also
crazy
when he's driving the car and he's like, "So do you think I do well in family violence?"
Well,
you might have missed it. The daughter then pitches the idea to him, saying, "Well, maybe."
I don't know if I will.
Like I couldn't see you hitting a woman like fake or otherwise, and stabbing her much less. Now that would be interesting.
Yeah.
They're sort of,
and then you see his face kind of
like, yes, maybe.
Yeah,
we should.
wow.
Yeah, so that's just like, but then of
those
course,
unconscious, like Marcus, what you were saying, like those unconscious, deeper kind of feelings that you're burying, you get to kind of play those out in these dark scenarios.
Right. There's a fantasy element, fantasy sort of fiction element of this too, where this kind of wish fulfillment side of it, where then but of course, his real life experience becomes an amalgamation with this family violence concept where, his character, the dad, is being portrayed by, couldn't have written it, couldn't have scripted it better. Just your most like fucking ho-dunk, outlaw mud show fucking wrestler, like local wrestler in the gymnasium, the high school
gymnasium.
Yeah, the fucking empty middle school gymnasium local wrestler.
Right.
Amazing. I mean, what an incredible thing. And that scene of him where you get a glimpse of him as this wrestler and just wrestling in front of like the nursing home people there.
It's sort of peak backyard wrestling years too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It all coalesces here.
Can we also mention the Gap ad like
I want to get to
pastiche?
that in a second.
Okay.
Yeah, just real quick. Yeah, so just to tie a knot, just to kind of put a bow on John Cassar, this sort of character. It's one of the most haunting elements of the film. Is not only just seeing his inner life with, you know, his son that is, you know, has like epilepsy or, you know, cerebral palsy or whatever he has, but then just seeing him live out this sort of like his real life trauma is injected into this haunted house. It's very fascinating. But then you also learn that he is the web designer for Hell House, which I also appreciate very
Incredible.
much. I wonder if that's on archive.org or whatever.
I did look up one website to see if it was still active.
Oh, you did? And?
I did look up Groovalistic Quick Fix Machine.
Dude, we're going to get to that shit. Yeah. Oh, dude. That was the name of my YouTube channel for like 10 years.
Really?
It was. You probably found my YouTube channel.
Oh,
Because that was, we're going to get to that guy really quickly.
Okay.
I just want to get to Rémy's thing real quick, and then we'll get to Groovalistic Quick Fix Machine.
well, just because this also ties in a little bit to like the guy's story, the dad's story.
yeah, no, totally.
Because then you're go ahead.
Let me just set it up. There's this amazing motif in the film that's so 90s, and it works very well in this film, which is Rémy, as you pointed out when we were rewatching it, that this was very Gap commercial style sort of stand-up interviews.
Yeah, and like
Whereas-
CK1.
Yes.
Like I feel
Right.
like they were the white background, the one
It's
model, like
and I love it.
It's commercial.
Yes, I love it. Tight shots of these guys with like frosted tips and like really bad acne. And like, you know, these like just really like boy band faces and like with their acne and greasy. And it's just like, that's my favorite part. That's like the Daniel Clowes kind of elements of this film that I really appreciate.
And that's kind of where the filmmaker, you know, where that kind of stylistic choice kind of comes in a bit. Like
Having
these
some
kind
fun.
of moving sort of portraits of
it's amazing. I
That's
love it.
definitely a solution you would see in ads. And like, I've seen another doc like on around this time about like you know, a hardcore in like Denmark or something that had the same aesthetic, you know. Of
I love
white background.
I love
also like Terry Richardson or something too.
Yeah, I think there was always that style with like
very
the
much.
white
Very
background.
much.
But it's you get this other kind of insight when it's like the daughter, for instance, is talking about how like the devil is very real, Satan is very real, because she saw how her mother was, you know, betraying her father and cheating on him. And so you're kind of like understanding like where this you know, devotion comes from, like where everyone is feeling that in their life of like, you know, what is this filling for them and, you know, whatnot.
Yeah, and you see that, and you also see that that one girl who, you know, again, that white background, and she talks about how she used to play the Suicide Girl, and she talks about how that was when it was the Suicide Girl was in the incest scene, you know, when she had sex with her father, you know, and but she was retelling the story in that Gap commercial setup. She was talking about how, like, while she was performing it, you know, one of the years during Hell House, the guy in real life who had raped her 2 years prior was in the audience watching her do this scene. And it was just like, holy crap. And then she talks about how she like forgave the guy, and that led to this incredible performance during her Hell House scene. And it's like, Jesus Christ. You know?
Yeah. And it goes to show how, you know, disgusting and traumatizing this whole exercise is, you know, like when they're doing the abortion scene, there's a woman who was passing out because she had multiple miscarriages.
That's right.
And, you know, there's the extremely traumatizing.
There's like a sort of like unspoken, like, you know, the power of theater, you know, like that undergirds the film to like, you know, for the release, for the audience, for the performers, you know, and it is, you know.
Well, since you brought up, or, you know, since we were talking about that sort of Suicide Girl, for lack of a better term, that we were just talking about, she's also in literally the standout breakout moment from this film that everybody quotes. If you've seen this film, you've quoted this scene. And, you know, this isn't a very well-known movie. It should be much more well-known. But this scene, for obvious reasons with me, stuck with me, but it's the best. Again, this is comedy gold that you could not write. This only could be in real life, where you have two characters, the Suicide Girl and this other guy who's really another crazy character in this. He's the guy that's in the drug deal scenes. But anyway, he's like one of the teachers there at the school or the church. Or
method actor.
He's a method actor, totally. And they're arguing over the name Magic the Gathering.
Magic and the Gathering.
It's called Magic.
The Magic cards. How do you? They're just called. What
To
are
the
they
game
called?
Magic. They're
the-
called Magic. The
But it
Gathering.
has what?
It's called The Gathering. Magic. The Gathering.
Or Magic and the Gathering. And they're sort of arguing about, because they're writing dialogue for the script and they're not sure what the name of the Magic cards game is. And it's amazing. It's just like two people.
It's called Magic the Gathering.
The Gathering. Magic the what?
It's called Magic. Yeah, it's a who's on first kind of like routine.
Totally.
Totally. It's like two people struggling very hard to understand the concept of this. It's Magic.
That man's like conviction.
I know.
Welcome. Your journey has finally brought you to the place of eternal agony. Here you will be subjected to constant torture.
You're just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, he should have gotten scouted for like NYPD Blue or
He
something.
should've.
Like,
Say, man, what's going on in here, huh? What's up? What's up? You know what I want? Look at me. Look at me.
it was one of those things where once again you're like, this is obviously a huge outlet for this person
And for everyone.
and
Yeah.
but I mean,
Yeah,
come
for
on,
him,
that performance,
he's grabbing these pimply faced motherfucking kids,
smashing their heads into desks.
smashing their heads into fucking school desks.
Right.
Some, huh? Is that good? You like selling in my part of town? Just shut up. I say what's enough.
And yelling at them, living out all of his drug dealer fantasies. He's loving it. It's amazing.
Getting up in their face, fucking spitting in their face. It's like it is the most committed performance I've ever seen.
He's like, I'm gonna blow your head off, boy. And like
It's like getting way too into it. And you're like, Jesus Christ.
And then you meet him as a school teacher, where he's like,
I know this looks bad, because people say there's no such thing as a dumb question. That's not correct.
It's like, Jesus Christ, this guy's insane.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Marcus brought it up. We got to address it. It's a big deal. This is Groovelistic Quick Fix Machine. This is the raver, the DJ. He goes by Thaddeus. This guy is such an unbelievable portrayal. I went to high school with a guy named Chris growing up, who was just the same thing, that sort of college hat turned backwards, the glasses without the frames, like this, it's such an archetype. But this guy, what's so amazing about this guy is he, I guess, how would you refer to him? He's a recovering raver. DJ, recovering raver, who wants to recreate his raver life.
I think he misses it.
No, but he deeply misses it.
I think he might have been a little bit of an outcast in that world too.
For
like
sure.
He's a doofus dork in the raver world.
Completely.
I think,
didn't fit in there.
Yep.
Converted to Christianity, doesn't quite fit in here.
Or maybe
pretending he was this awesome.
He was
raver.
always Christian,
Yes.
and then just doubled down into it. But
yes,
like this is like, he's like, now he brings the rave scene into the hell house, but his motivation is because he gets to be the DJ at the rave scene.
But
look who's in charge now.
Right, exactly. But like he, I mean, I don't know. He either was part of this rave scene or wasn't at all, and maybe no one's there to confirm or deny. Because it kind of seems like he doesn't really know what's going on, because
he doesn't. Yeah,
he doesn't strike me as someone who was really into that scene, because he talks about, I saw dozens of bodies getting dragged out of there.
There have been times when I've left a rave and literally just, you'd have to drag a couple dozen bodies out. Maybe not that many. I exaggerate a little bit, but maybe.
Like dozens of bodies.
Right. Or he can't remember the name of the
drug.
Does anybody here remember the name of the drug, the actual name that we're going to be using?
No, I think that's kind of
it's a Mickey.
Drug.
Right.
There's a lot of kind of like fibbing, maybe.
I think there's a lot of lying, and that's another characteristic of that high school archetype that a person I went to. Lots of lying, like exaggerating. But he's on this mission to bring authenticity to this rave scene, but obviously he gets to live out the fantasy of being the sort of DJ, And
you can be the expert around the preacher.
I was just gonna say,
stuff, right?
It's all about him being like the expert on this topic.
Totally.
But then part of you thinks maybe he was just watching movies about, like
That's
he
what I
makes that
think.
that hackers reference. Yeah, exactly. No,
Dude,
for sure.
So he's spray painting the rave scene, which is one of my favorite moments ever. And he's like, yeah, so this over here says, Thaddeus, my name. This over here says acid burn, which is,
This one over here said acid burn, which is the name of a hacker from Hackers.
a hacker's name from the movie Hackers, or whatever. And it's like,
I'm like,
the
oh,
best.
I love
And
that.
this over here just says one phrase.
Over there on that wall, I only have one thing there. It says Groovelistic Quick Fix Machine, which actually is the name of my website. So,
whatever. And it's like the best.
And then he was talking about that he met his girlfriend, future wife, like in this role play dynamic.
She was the date rape girl.
Which is also just this bizarro,
That's
kinky
strange.
kind of shit where like they're definitely getting off on this. It's like she plays the rape victim, he's the rapist, then they have this great dynamic. And I mean, it's just, like we were saying, like living out all these kind of weird twists.
Wow.
Sexual kind of repression.
I mean, yeah, and the filmmakers even they bring in that one character. They showed the date happen with the nice young girl, and she goes on a date. She's like expressing her limits about what she will and won't do. And I realized that was the point of that scene.
Yes,
was to provide contrast with like this is the world they live in. This is like so this is the Hell House provides their experience where they get to live, act out those things.
The
that
vice
are
is
forbidden.
Yeah.
And it's like the fear mongering, but actually it's them getting to express those like desires.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because there's an amazing scene where she goes on a date with this like spiky haired guy, and they like go to church as their date, and he's like this really like sort of shy, like introverted guy with spiky hair. It's amazing. Again, another person I went to high school with. Or was me.
That was
actually.
you.
Yeah, actually me. It's amazing. And she is the date rape, girl in this. And it follows her, and there's just an insane scene where she screams at a picture of Jesus, throws it on the ground, and then slits her wrist with a razor blade, in her room full of NSYNC posters. I mean, it's incredible.
It's incredible.
But again, so while they're building all these set pieces, it's amazing. And here's one sort of like, I think the filmmaker winking at the camera. Because again, I even mentioned in the synopsis, there is this, sort of very objective, like it always gets name checked in reviews as being very objective, very sort of observational, doesn't really...
So like editorializing.
Doesn't editorialize, doesn't show its hand. But there's one scene where, or there's a few, but there's one scene where it's like, come on. I'm sure this got big laughs in New York. How could it not? But there's a scene where the head pastor is arguing with another, teacher or whatever, while they're constructing the occult scene. And they're arguing over which color paint do Satanists use to paint, pentagrams or have candles.
You gonna use red? I said white.
White? They don't do white.
Black and white? Why not?
They just don't, I don't think.
Yeah, they do. White? Black and red. Yeah.
And they're arguing over, red paint versus white paint. No, it's red paint. No, I think it's white paint. Some guy was here last year and said, oh my God, you use white candles? What the hell? And then the camera just pans over to the shittiest drawn pentagram, which is literally a Star of David.
Oh my God.
Is the pentagram.
My God.
T-shirt.
I know. Oh my God. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Wild.
What a great
Yeah, I mean,
movie.
like the humor is in the editing. It's like it's like sly humor.
Sly
kind
humor.
of.
Yes.
I do think it's presented unbiased. If I'm being totally honest, though, I do think that this film's obviously motivated to like kind of reveal the Pentecostal communities to like a wider audience.
Absolutely.
And it does exploit them, but it does it in he has a deft enough hand, I think, to where the subjects can't tell that they're being critiqued, and it does play as being unbiased.
I think so.
I wouldn't say it's an unbiased picture of their life, though, because you are led. I mean, it's showing them in their natural world doing the things they would do, but obviously he's like edited it or whatever and played up certain moments. But because I was thinking about comparing it to like Wiseman. and like something like, I don't know if you ever seen Welfare, that Wiseman.
I haven't seen that
so
one.
good.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's so good. But like he shows people that are, and at times they're like cheating welfare, but it's a funny scene. Like he's picking up the funny moments. And I would think Wiseman's probably like a left-wing kind of guy, but he's showing a critique of the welfare system. But it's not, he's not going in with any political stance at all. He's just showing these are interesting people. This is a funny situation,
Yeah.
And so the politics isn't really driving it. So as much as I did enjoy this, I still think that the filmmaker, if I'm being honest, he definitely does have a political point of view that he's getting across in it, but it does come off, it's presented as an unbiased piece.
Well, I would also say that like what these pastors are doing with these hell houses is pretty
exploitative.
Abhorrent.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? So it's like at the same time, it's like the whole point of is exploitation. Like these are exploitation scenarios. Like they're creating exploitation and they're trying to exploit other people.
Yeah,
so that the filmmaker is really just shining a light. And like the bigotry. I mean, if you were, a young gay kid in those communities, I mean, not even just gay, like experiencing anything complicated in your life. And, that's a pretty kind of terrifying environment to sort of be involved.
Totally. And Tim, the head pastor, very early on in the film, when they're in the sort of pitch meeting and they're talking about ideas and new spins on drunk driving scene. What are we going to do this year? How are we going to spin that around? Someone does bring up like, oh, well, if we do that idea, it's just going to be, Hell House doing another Columbine thing. And then he chimes in right away and says, I'm okay with them saying that. I'm okay with them saying like that. Like he wants this sort of negative publicity, controversy, publicity. Like
they're evangelizing through this shock jock kind of.
Yes.
I mean, like Pat Robertson, Christian radio, Bob Larson, Exorcist guy. I mean, these people were very shocking, and that was part of the technique. It was.
Yeah. And the filmmaker does give them a little bit of what they would want out of it too. I think at the end, he actually shows like the rapture or whatever in a way, because the preacher's talking and he shows what it would be like if he just disappeared in the rapture in that moment.
Right.
And I thought that was kind of interesting. It's like, it's a very filmic way of showing, it's very, whatever basic effect or whatever. But the fact that they went through with that, it feels like some sort of concession to them. To illustrate the rapture, do you know what I mean?
Well,
in a way.
I also think too, like given the fact that that the filmmaker probably made the short film and he spent all this time doing this and he got to really know these people. There isn't like a hard journalistic barrier, between them. I mean, he probably really did ingratiate himself to them.
He
so
did
he probably
say that they were very nice people.
Yeah,
he did say that.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure he genuinely got along with them and they got along with him and they were comfortable with him. And he's not like turning around like, ha ha ha, I have all this footage now. But no, I'm sure that there's a genuine appreciation that he has for them on some level. But the film does, even as the viewer, like you start to kind of, even like if it's in an like ironic way, like with like, Mr. Groovelistic Quick Fix Machine, like, I'm laughing at him, but I love him, But then when you are seeing these scenes of like, like Rémy was saying, like just like extreme bigotry, insane shit, really fucked up.
Dying of AIDS and your fault. And,
your fault. Yeah.
Right.
And it's like
that shit is insane.
Propaganda. Disgusting.
It's propaganda. Exactly.
It's horrible, and then it really makes you really reevaluate. Like your own parasocial relationship.
Well, you're not blaming the young people or the dad. It's not as if it's about blaming the individual. Like I think in these situations, it's like it's institutional. You know what I mean? It's always coming from these like sort of rich preachers and pastors who have like developed these. Plans.
Right. As we was established, they've been doing this for like a couple thousand years.
Yeah.
The same,
Right.
And also like there was a lot going on where like there was conferences connected to these things. There was networking. There was like you paid a fee and then so it was a big money making machine too for like the greater sort of like Christian movement. So it's like, the younger people are just, this is a thing, this is where I meet friends. This is my community. Like,
Yeah. Okay, couple of things I want to get into and talk about. One is a big one. This is like you know you're in a weird, interesting film when the only voice of reason is a teenager wearing a Fear Factory shirt in this movie. Of course, there's a scene where some new metal kids go to the Hell House, presumably for fun, and they get fucking pissed. They're flicking off pastors in their face, and
No.
Okay. It's okay. No, it's cool. It's cool.
stuff, and they're getting really angry.
I love that though.
I know. It's such
like they're really trying to engage, in like a real conversation.
I know,
about,
and they know about like sort of the history of Christianity too, for some reason. But obviously, like this is very the year 2000 in terms of the way this kid is speaking. But again, the kid with the backwards hat, the fucking Fear Factory shirt. I went to high school with him too, and I definitely would have been friends with this guy, I'm sure. But the fact that he basically says like you meet him where he's like,
that's fucking bullshit. That's stereotypical Christian faggot shit. Okay? The fucking whole shit with the fucking faggot dying.
Right.
I was fucking offended by that. I got gay friends.
That's pretty amazing.
Which
That's
is
incredible.
Comedic,
very indicative
gold.
of the period. Yeah,
so indicative. But just to go from one end of using the F-bomb to the other, of just saying, I have gay friends, and like what if I were gay? That would offend me. And and them engaging in this discourse. That girl wearing the
I
Slipknot.
love her.
Yeah, she's wearing
with like the kind of raver bracelets that whole style.
Right.
She's got
People forget that the 90s was very PC, politically correct, came out of that era, and Nirvana was like, if you're homophobic, don't come to our shows.
100%. I think that's such a good point because like that era is where we really started to see that tension, where like the idea of being more cognizant of different belief systems and ways of living and whatever, like that became much more mainstream and like the political correct stuff that was kind of like, going into universities. That's when the backlash really started. I mean, that's when that kind of reactionary new right really started to ramp up against that's what they call it DEI now, but it used to be called politically correct.
Right.
They call it woke now, but
right. I feel like back then too, people were sort of being anti-PC in comedy first at that time to kind of break down those social barriers. It's kind of weirdly mirrored with what people are attempting to
Rémy,
do.
Rémy, I feel like if you're going to use the W word, I have to hit you with a.
Oh my God, Bill Maher.
Oh,
wait,
okay.
Can I mention this?
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Well, okay, this is another very weird connection, but like so these like scripts, these like outreach kits that were created, like you could buy them at a certain point, like purchase them. So people started like purchasing them. So in Brooklyn at St. Ann's Warehouse,
of course.
they put on a Hell House play based on like the actual script, the actual all of it, like the set design. And then in LA, they did a Hollywood Hell House. Bill Maher plays the Satan. And which is so fucking crazy. But
Was this filmed or something?
There is
footage.
Some footage
Yes.
of it, but I guess it was a big thing. It was kind of like a fringe, like festival kind of.
It might make an appearance later in this program. Okay, so yeah, right.
But I do think there's a lot of stuff like same thing when we were talking about The Exorcist. Like in history, you see these cyclical moments, kind of like where there's like cultures moving, progressive ideals and norms are changing. And then there's the massive swing to the right and that kind of wild backlash. I mean, we're seeing that now. So it's interesting, like how we just.
It is weird because things like The Man Show and like Kimmel, but at that time were like reactionary to the political correctness of that time.
I know.
Like they would be like, we're not PC or whatever.
I know.
It is weird to see that mirrored today. Or then the people like, Sarah Silverman was very like outrageous back then too, and would do anti-PC things.
Yeah.
And it's weird to see how things evolve, and then they become the banners. They carry that banner like 20 years later, and the cycle's repeating itself. It's very strange.
Like we're seeing like the kind of rise of Christian nationalism, but at the same time, the Christian right, where we're talking about Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell. They really started that new Christian right movement. So this is now just like a continuation of what was happening, but it flared up again in a big way.
And now our anti-PC voices are Tony Hinchcliffe.
Right.
We have.
Well, the church centers have changed too, like from this Pentecostal thing to like this more prosperity gospel, being like a more dominant form, and because I don't know, my grandma, the church I went to, I'm from this area that this film takes place in.
Yeah, that's
in
wild.
Dallas originally, so it's
That's
hard for me
crazy.
to like. Some of these people just seem like normal to me in some way.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
It's hard to like kind of like take the blinders off. But my grandma was like spoken tongues and stuff. in
Oh, we didn't even
church,
talk about that.
Yeah,
We didn't even talk.
Wow.
We
Real
didn't
quick.
even get to the tongues.
We didn't even get to the
did-
tongues part because
Did you go to did you go to Pentecostal churches when you were a kid?
Only when I went to stay with my grandma, then I'd go to her church, and it would be all
shit.
that tongue speaking and stuff. They would stomp devils and stuff.
Wow,
the tongues. This was. I mean, I
tongue scene here is outrageous.
Okay, so I grew up Jewish. Like my family. I've never stepped inside a church in my life. So this was my introduction to this style, this brand, if you will. And this was my introduction to tongues as well. Speaking in tongues, I never knew what the fuck that was until I literally remember watching this and being like, "No, you're kidding me, right? Like, no fucking way."
Well, what about like electric guitar and tongues?
Okay, so that's what I want to talk about. No, I want to talk about that for a second. This is like, there's a great scene in this where the pastor Tim is fucking, opening up the floor to have everyone speak in tongues while there's this amazing, like Dave Matthews Band kids in the background, and they're kind of noodling in the back. They're just like noodling, but it's kind of this very like, I don't know. It's got
melodic
kind of
underscore to
very
the tongue
good
speaking. But I was reading about that the Pentecostal churches were the first churches to bring in the electric guitar.
I love rock
they
churches.
They were very into that. Like, we're gonna bring in the youth. If we're gonna get the youth, we got to get we got to figure out what's cool and do like the Christian rock thing. So then in the 90s, I have a lot of friends who grew up in that world, the Christian rock world.
So
jars of clay and like a DC talk.
Absolutely.
Oh,
but like the tongues part was disturbing to me because it was like, okay, this was all like fun and games like for a minute. Because obviously it's before you see the actual haunted house. But then like when I saw the tongues, I was like, well, these guys are like fucking demonic. You know what I said?
Try going to church with your grandma and then looking up and she's doing that and she's speaking in tongues.
I can't.
Like all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Okay.
I can't do it though because you go to hell if you
two things.
Oh, if it's not like authentic.
Okay, you're going to hell. Real quick. Two things I want to bring up just real quick before the clock is done here. We're almost done. One is really the vibe killer, quote unquote, scene in this film. Where, again, as a viewer, you're watching this, your jaw's on the floor, you're like, what the fuck? When they're going through all the haunted house set pieces. And then like, okay, all the fun games are over and you get to this separate, like very cold, bare room where this pastor guy gets up and gives you this ultimatum. He gives you're sort of at a crossroads where you can either leave or you can...
Scared straight guy.
Scared straight guy. Very terrifying. Or you can go in this room and there's going to be people there who will pray with you. And that's like, whoa.
Because this is no joke. This is like... That's when you realize you're like, okay, this was all like performance, but there was like a real purpose. And the purpose is that in that moment, you have to decide if you stopped in your tracks right now, would you be going to heaven or hell?
Yes.
And then you have to try to make that assessment in that moment and then be like, if not, save me, save me.
You have 5 seconds.
You got 5 seconds to get saved.
And I also like how nobody's going in that room and then like they slowly, the first guy goes and then more people trickle in there, and it's just,
I think they have some ringers too who go in there
totally
first.
Ringers.
Yeah,
ringers. So that's just really, that's one of the more terrifying scenes for me in the film. And again, amazing time capsule. Again, it's just like it's taking a time machine back to the year 2000, if anything. Where you get to see those chain ball choker necklaces again, which I guess the kids are wearing again these days. Frosted tips. I spotted a fucking Mr. Pibb bottle. Lots of fucking Old Navy fleece going on in this movie. So definitely, if you want some nostalgia for that time period, check it out. But I mean, I mean, a gem. I mean, a real doc gem of that golden age.
It's a beautiful, rough gem.
Yes, it is. It is. Anything else, Marcus? Five seconds.
5. Well, it reminded me of Hell's Bells a little bit. That rock and roll Christian doc.
Okay.
Where sorry, I'm cheating a little bit, but the guy, it's like he's learning about the dangers of rock and roll, but the guy's obviously an expert in music, and he's like, anyway, it's another Christians living vicariously. Okay.
All right. That was 1 fucking hour on Hell House, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Something a little different than normal. One thing if I'm going to cheat for a second, not really a cheat, but this film also really set up Jesus Camp, which I think was a much bigger sort of film that had a much wider release, and I think was, I had a bigger theatrical release than this film did, and I think this is sort of this was like a forerunner to that. I sort of see. So for further reading, check out Jesus Camp if you haven't seen that as well. Okay, so that was it. 1 fucking hour on Hell House. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it.
Kind of a companion to The Exorcist.
It is. Yeah, I didn't really think of it that way when I pitched it as a film for us to cover, but I think it really does fit nicely with last week. So
how so? Just being
well, I mean, they're both sort of about Christian sort of backlash to society's changing.
Are fantastical versions of how religion can save society.
I was going to say.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say, because again, you may think that with The Exorcist that, the Catholic Church is very against the film, but it's quite the opposite. This is a documentary in their eyes.
For sure.
So I think.
And then what was happening in the 60s and the 70s and all of that stuff, the rapid social change that was happening, suddenly the Christians were like, fuck, we got to come back in here and really scare the shit out of people.
Yes. There's also that moment in this movie where the Catholics and the Protestants are arguing with each other, right?
That. Yes. So much great stuff. So check out the film. Hopefully you guys dug it. And I guess we'll talk about next week. Next week, this has been a short lister for a while, so I'm very excited that we're getting to do it. I know, Rémy, you're a big fan of this movie, right? This was this was big in your household, right?
Yes, huge.
Isn't this your dad's favorite film?
It's one of his favorite films. Whoa. It's probably up there. It's up there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it.
This was one of the Laserdisc ones that he bought us when we were kids, and we used to watch it all the time. Yeah.
Wow. I love it. All right, so everybody strap in. Next week, we're going to be... I am traveling next week, so I'm not sure when exactly the next episode is going to drop. Maybe it will drop on time and everything will be fine. But we're going to 1986 for a film directed by Tim Hunter. Was he the Twin Peaks guy, or am I thinking of somebody else? I think I am thinking of somebody else. I don't think he had anything to do with that. Anyway, Tim Hunter directed the film. Here we go. River's Edge is going to be next week. Boot Edge. I forgot about that. Very excited, of course, starring Crispin Glover, Keanu Reeves, etc., etc.
Dennis Hopper.
Of course, Dennis Hopper. Oh my God. Rémy, anything to say on River's Edge for what the people are in store for? No?
So more, a portrait of disaffected youth in the 90s, and kind of in a way also talking about what we talked about tonight, kind of the fear of what's happening with the new generation. And there's always this kind of there's always a lot of fear mongering happening when a new generation is emerging.
I think it's interesting that you said 90s too, because it is 86, but I always thought I always thought this film was 1990 and 91
80s,
too.
yeah.
No, it feels ahead of its time.
It does.
Both in the way it's made and just the styles represented.
Yeah.
Yes, because it almost has a little bit of a pre-grunge early 90s.
A lot of it is because of Crispin Glover's character.
Absolutely.
And Keanu too.
Clothes and stuff. Yeah, but it feels 90s. I guess it really tapped into that late 80s. The late 80s was the pre-90s,
Yeah.
a lot of stuff that got big in the 90s was already happening.
That's exactly true. And that kind of suburban, kind of deadbeat suburban kids. It's not usually the 80s that's portrayed in 80s movies.
Right. Oh, it's very
right.
It was more realistic to what actually. Yeah, for sure.
Very true. All right, so that'll be next week. Again, just another quick shout out to the 1 fucking hour Patreon, patreon.com/1 fucking hour. That's where you can sign up, and it's the best way to support Tom while he's going through sort of his medical condition and getting through recovery. So if you're able to support him and if he made a difference in your life and you want to give back and you're able to, that's the best way to do it, because 100% of all of the funds that we raise on Patreon are going to be going to Tom. So that's, again, patreon.com/onefuckinghour. You can sign up there for $5 a month, or you can pick a higher tier if you like, and we'd really appreciate that. But we really appreciate anything you guys can do. And of course, you can also sign up on YouTube if you want to support Tom that way. You can also join the channel by clicking the join button underneath this video and becoming a Momin. And for that, you get access to all of our bonus episodes in the archive and 24-hour early access to all of our episodes and any of the future bonus eps that we get around to here. Probably we're going to do one here pretty shortly. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much. And of course, we can't leave you without your, and we're rebranding it, Toman of Zen. All right, everybody. Here's your Toman. And we'll see you next week. All right, everybody. Take care and have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you for River's Edge. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I am Lucifer! You'll burn in hell forever with me!
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
That was wicked, man.